Hey, it's Mike here, and this week's video will be a little different. It's not going to be a how-to or a top tips type of training video, the kind I usually make and I'm going to continue making, but instead this one's going to be a little bit more personal, sharing some of what really goes on behind the scenes when I'm making this kind of content, shooting this kind of video. And in fact, it's going to be the first of a new occasional series called One Thing I'm Learning About. So let's jump in. Now, let's be honest, we're all growing. We're all on our own particular journey. And while I enjoy sharing what I figured out over 20 plus years as a coach and trainer, I also want to share some of what I'm still figuring out now, because believe me, there are still so many areas where I'm still figuring that out, working things out, working in what I do, and hopefully trying to improve that too. So today, I want to begin with one thing I'm learning about self-doubt. And it's not going to be a big and dramatic video because, let's be honest, self-doubt isn't usually big or dramatic, but it's usually something quiet and pervasive that creeps in on a Tuesday afternoon or maybe a Friday morning when you're least expecting it. And chances are, whilst nobody else might notice that you're feeling some self-doubt, the truth is you do. For me, one of those moments came last week. In fact, it came right after I posted last week's video, Why You're Not Growing Online. I thought the video was pretty good. I was happy with it. But then somebody shared a comment, something along the lines of, why are you talking about this topic when you're not huge on social media yourself? Surely there must be something that doesn't add up. Now, I know, whatever, and I appreciate everyone is entitled to their opinion. And believe me, I'm not being precious about my content at all. But last week, after I just spent a whole day making what eventually turned out to be a 10-minute YouTube video, that comment stuck. Not because it was or it wasn't true. And if you've watched that video, you'll know I wasn't actually talking about going viral online, but rather helping coaches build a successful business by making consistent and genuine connections with their audience. But then I guess the truth is that comment last week hit a nerve for me. And that's what self-doubt does. It hits a nerve, it sneaks in through the back door and takes up space in your unconscious. And usually when you think that back door is actually locked and it's never going to happen, and then it does. Because the truth is, self-doubt doesn't always come in after big, obvious moments when you might imagine that self-doubt might occur. In fact, sometimes it's actually in the quiet moments when maybe something you've done or maybe something you've said hasn't landed in the way that you hoped it would. It's possibly that coaching session where you thought, that was not my finest hour. And we've all had those kind of coaching sessions where we just thought we could have done whatever we did a little bit better. Or maybe it's been a social media post that maybe has landed badly, didn't get the response you wanted, and it just wasn't your finest hour. Or maybe it's been a launch that you thought would go really well and it didn't attract the interest that you'd imagine. And then suddenly, it's that little voice that pops into your mind, you know, the one that's saying, well, maybe you're not actually as good as you thought you were anyway. That's what I'm talking about. And I've been thinking a lot about why it is that it's those small moments like these that can sometimes snowball into something that can have such a big, and I guess let's just call it what it is, negative impact. Because the one thing I've learned about self-doubt through the years is this, is that our minds don't always separate our experiences that clearly. In fact, what it does, it groups things together, even when they don't necessarily belong together, and makes sense of that. So I guess last week for me, that's what happened. It was a random comment on YouTube. It was maybe a tough coaching call or a call that I thought I could have done even better. And maybe leaving a webinar or a Zoom presentation thinking, I wasn't quite on my A game for that moment. And they all get bunched together in what I call the self-doubt bucket. Even though, as I've said, in reality, they're unconnected, random experiences, and it was just random experiences for 1 week. But then, of course, you're not just doubting one thing. You're doubting everything because you got that bucket of self-doubt. Everything gets bunched in there. And then, and I'll be honest here, from my own personal experience last week, then that's when self-doubt hurts. So what am I learning about self-doubt? Well, I guess first, it's not a flaw. In fact, it's a part of who we are. It's what makes us human. And I believe because of that, it can also be an opportunity for growth. Now, I can hear you asking, how come? How can you say that, Mike? Well, I guess it's because it often shows up when you're on the edge of something, something meaningful that it's maybe an indication that you're stretching yourself, you're trying something as hard as you can, showing up boldly and authentically, or maybe as Theodore Roosevelt once said, daring greatly. Now, secondly, I don't believe that self-doubt is usually about a present or a specific moment, but rather about something that has happened. It reminds you of something that's happened in the past. For example, a time when you doubted yourself before. Because remember, the human mind collects everything, all of those experiences, and tucks them away into a nice, neat bundle, a parcel, a bucket of self-doubt. So I guess what I'm learning about self-doubt is that you don't have to really eliminate it to move forward. Because that's probably impossible anyway. Rather, maybe just to recognize it for exactly what it is. Name it, and then choose for it not to be a driver in what you do next. And personally, one thing I started to ask myself when I sense that self-doubt is beginning to creep in is this. Is this true now? Or has it triggered something familiar from my past? Because just that pattern interrupt, just by asking that question can help self-doubt stop getting too comfortable and too at home in our thoughts. And the most powerful thing to remember is that we get to choose whether we keep that self-doubt or disregard it and simply move on. So let me know in the comments box, has self-doubt ever shown up for you? Has it shown up for you recently? And if it did, what did you do to help yourself move through that, to move on, to get over it, and to get to the other side? Because learning what works for you can help you deal with it when it happens next time. Since, as I mentioned in the beginning, self-doubt will probably try to creep in again at some point when you're least expecting it again too. And knowing what works for you can help you to deal with it when that happens again. So let me know your thoughts in the comments box. I read every single one of them always, and I'd love to know how you're dealing with self-doubt when it happens for you too. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and also share it with someone who needs to perhaps see it and hear this too. And if you're wondering about the Speak Like a Pro online group program that I talked about at the end of last week's video, believe me, it's coming. It's not quite ready yet, but it is coming. So just keep your eyes on your inbox or on your YouTube channel, social media channel, and you'll find out about that very soon. Thanks for watching. Keep well, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next time.